Peace, love, and power. Welcome to another episode of the 828 podcast, hosted by yours truly, Pretty Boss. I'm recording this message on a lovely Thursday, February 8th at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Even as we get into that, 10 on the dot, I think this is the first podcast that I've recorded that's been anything on the dot. And when we're talking about 10, we're talking about completions. Okay? One predominant part of this prophetic message is the fact that you truly are at the end of an era. You graduated. You did what you had to do. Much of what you've experienced before and what life accustomed you to in your past, that is no more. Behold, all things old become new, and you are in the process of becoming. Many parts of you have integrated, many parts of you have transformed, healed, developed, grown, but it's all about the different aspects of you coming into alignment with that growth, with that spiritual transformation that is already taking process inside of you. This is about being able to connect your mind, your heart, your intuition, and your body and have them all be on the same page. Some of you might have had that emotional healing, that heart healing. Your heart portal may be open. One of the most important episodes of the 828 podcast is Your Heart is a Portal. Many of you, your heart portal is open. Many of you are way more in tune spiritually. Your intuition is increasing. Your ability to hear directly from Almighty and understand the voice of the Most High inside of you is increasing. For some of you, you're experiencing different changes in your physical body. And the only thing for some of you, and even though some of you, there are still some changes that you're going through with your physical body, because again, it takes also time for that trauma and drama to move out of the body. But for most of you who this is for, the last piece of the pie is the mind. Many of you have done the work emotionally, spiritually. So it's making sure that you have those new wineskins on at all times. It's realizing that whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're spending your time imagining, whatever stories that you're telling yourself, this is what you are making more room in your life to experience. And the thing about this is, if we continue to regurgitate, if we continue to think and ponder over and over about the different obstacles that we've been through, about the different challenges that we faced, about the different storms, about the different unexpected events, about the unfortunate events that we knew even the Most High did himself. If we continue to think over those things and continue to think over those things, that is not making space for the new. That is expecting to put new wine into old wineskins, and that just can't happen. There are certain ideas, there are certain thoughts, there are certain revelations, and even certain feelings and way of being that is not going to come to any of us, any of you, if you're getting caught up in thinking about everything that you've been through all the time. We have to let those stories go. For many of you that's listening to this, imagine if you're so fixated on your new era that you decide today is the last day of your life, that you're going to regurgitate anything about what you've been through in the past. Imagine if you never felt the need to even explain your life to anybody. Yeah, you've been through challenges. Yeah, you've been through more than most people. Maybe some people come to vent to you and you're listening, you have words of encouragement, but only if they knew what you've been through. They wouldn't even want to tell their story anymore. So sometimes we form an identity because of how much different bonds that we've made over things that we've been through in the past. Talking about our upbringing, talking about this is what happened to me, talking about I experienced this, talking about this is what happened in my relationship life, talking about this is what happened in my past relationship, this is what happened in my divorce, this is what happened here, this is what happened with my parents, this is what happened over here, this is what I did, this is what I didn't do. If we continue to tell those stories, what does that really tell us? That's an indicator that we're attached to that. And we're still not letting it go. How would you feel if I told you you never had to explain anything that you've been through in the past again? And again, let me be very clear about this before I continue. For those of you who are led to create, okay, those of you who are led to maybe write a particular thing, those of you who are led to create certain art, certain works of art, music, dance, certain types of content that is beneficial for others. If you are led to do that and you're in a healed enough space to do that and to be able to be in that realm where you're going to be having certain discussions and it doesn't move you out of your alignment and it doesn't keep you stuck in that trauma, do that. And few of you will be led to do that. There are certain things that even one of my friends asked me one time, like, well, you know a lot about this and you experienced that. Why don't you ever do videos about that? Like, you can have your whole channel like be about those types of videos. And I told my friend, I was like, I don't talk about that, or at least not to the degree that I could or in the way that I can, because I don't want to be consumed by that. I don't want to be telling my stories about my experience with that and then having to also not only relive my experiences, but relive that same experience through other people that has had that same experience. I didn't want to create my world around that. So there's a few things that I've been through that were dramatic, that were traumatic to me. But I don't speak about those things publicly, even though it could bring, a significant following, even though it could bring all types of things. I don't want to be stuck in that space. I said that to give a little bit of context to what I'm talking about. But with that being said, keep that in mind. And this is only a question that you can answer for yourself, but you want to be very clear and very real about this answer. Now, for others of you, not only have you healed enough and you're ready for it, but the Most High has also given you the anointing to not be able to be moved by any of that. And you're going to be called to your specific work is going to, for a small percentage of you, is going to have to do with certain things that you have been through. But again, when you're doing that work, that's when you're going to live in that. That's when you're going to deal with that. But these are not things that we want to regurgitate on a regular basis. These are not the type of conversations that we want to have with friends, with family, with relatives, with people that we're meeting. We want to literally never speak about those things again. And I want you to think to yourself, if nothing else for this podcast episode, how do you feel about that? How does it feel to you when I say, never talk about what you've been through ever again? And then if it feels uncomfortable, if it feels like, why? If it feels like, but I need to get to the bottom of that, why? Why do you feel that you need to do that? Is it your comfort zone? Have you formed your entire identity through the challenges that you faced? Because if that's what you have formed your identity through, and you want to continue to keep that identity, you want to continue to keep those old wineskins, then keep telling those same stories. Think about when you get a cut. And of course, I'm not, this is an analogy. So things that we've been through is deeper than just a cut. But for analogy's sake, think about if you get a cut. You got a cut, scratch, and it goes through the healing process. You put whatever you put on it. Maybe you put a Band-Aid, maybe you put some ointment. Then it scabs up. then the scab leaves, and then you have the scar. And if you're like me and you have certain type of healed skin, then it gets to the point for some of your scars that it just, you don't even remember that it was there. It's completely gone. And even for the ones that you might be able to see, it's not something that you're thinking about. Maybe you look in the mirror, you look in certain things, and you see this like, oh, sometimes you might not even remember where the scar came from. So the same way that we don't continue to relive our scars, like, you see, this happened when I did this. It's funny because as I'm saying that, I'm like, there is somebody out there that does that. But for most of you, y'all will understand what I'm talking about. You don't do that. You're not constantly walking around like, you see this that happened on my knee. This happened when I was 5. This over here happened when I was 12. Yesterday I did this and this happened. Like, maybe in the moment of the scar, when you're healing from it, maybe you're talking about it because it's active. You can still feel it. It's very present. You're healing it. But then after the healing process has happened, we're no longer visiting all of these old scar stories because it has no relevance. That our identity is not in that for most of us. So that's the same thing when you're thinking about the trauma, the challenges. If you're moving into a new era, what does that have to offer here? Nothing. There's no room for it. There's no space for it. It's time to put that to bed. And for some of you listening to this, I want you to think about that as you listen to this today, tonight. Are you ready to stop telling those old stories that you've always identified with? And not only stop telling those stories, but replacing them with new ones. With forward focus. Scripture tells us to keep our eyes in front of us, to keep our gaze straight ahead, to ponder the paths of our feet. So in order to move into the new era, we got to stop looking back. And one of the main ways that you're going to see a dramatic difference in your life is when you stop telling those old stories for once and for all. All of your power lies ahead. We know scripture also tells us what? Life and death is in the power of the tongue. When we're speaking of those things that tried to hurt us, tried to destroy us, tried to break us, and we're reliving and retelling those stories, what is it really doing? What purpose is it actually serving? For many of you, it feels good to explain yourself, explain your situation. Well, this is what I've been through. This is where I come from. But in the long run, how does that serve you? Maybe in that moment, it feels good to say that. But now, that's where your present is focused. You're focused in the past again. Instead of imagine if when you're talking and you're having encounters with people, every conversation that you have is present or forward focused. That's going to make an entire difference in your life. And that's what this particular podcast episode is about. It's time to use your words wisely. You're going to see as you start to speak about new things, as you start to focus towards, talking about the desires of your heart, where you're headed, where you're going, what you're doing now. You're going to start to see that even the thoughts that you have, you're going to start to forget about certain things that you've been through. You ever notice that if you're talking about something that you've been through in the past, you might be telling one story. And then as you start telling that story and it's gaining momentum, then you start remembering things that you didn't even remember at the time, but you start remembering, like, I also went through this, and then this happened, and then that happened. It's like it builds a momentum. So as you start to let go of that, put that to bed, bury those old stories, and start focusing forward, you're going to see that you literally start to even honestly forget about a lot of the things that was once stories that you told all the time. They're going to become very distant memories, almost like past life memories for you. This is a time where you are meant to experience happiness in a way that you've never. This is making me think of the pursuit of happiness. You've been pursuing it. You've been wondering about it. Some of you have been wondering, is it possible to actually be happy? Some of you know, okay, yes, I know peace is true. I can find peace. I can find balance. I can find calm. I can find zen. But what about happiness? Because, happiness is different. Even joy. Joy is something that you could feel deep within. But happiness, that has a slightly different energy attached to it. It's like a true satisfaction. It's a true enjoyment. Happiness has a different pep to it. Things that make you happy feel really good. So imagine, some of you wondered, like, is happiness just something that, you know, if you experience it, maybe you experience it occasionally, or is this something that I can really live? Can I live in happiness? Is that something that is worth pursuing? Is that something that can truly be attained? And the fact of the matter is, it absolutely can be. It depends on what you decide to focus on, what you decide to speak about. The world is yours. This new world is yours. This is your new era. So you can decide if you want to repaint pictures of the past or if you want to create something new. The choice is yours. And for many of you, as you start focusing forward, and even to give context to that, because I really want you all that are listening to this to practice this. If you can decide today, you know what, no matter what it is, no matter how compelled I feel, what circumstance, even if I'm talking to somebody and they're telling me about something that they've been through and it makes me want to say, I've been through that too. If you can just hold yourself and be like, no matter what, I'm not going to speak about any of these things. Even if it's just for, let's take it slow. I was going to say a year, but it's like, let's say you're like, you know what, I'm not going to do that for a week. Then let's say you succeed for a week and not doing that. I'm not going to do that next month. I'm not going to do that this month. And then I'm not going to do it this year. Then you're going to see it gets easier not to do it. And then you're going to get to the point where you can't even relate to the stories that you used to identify with because it's not anywhere near what you've been focusing on. So one of the things to help in regard to that process is, of course, for many of you, it's habitual. It's a habit, a subconscious habit. So when you find yourself, first of all, identify that you do it, identify when you're doing it, and when you start to do that, even if it's just in your own mind, or if you find yourself wanting to do that in a situation, let's say something triggers it to where it's like, okay, this is a situation where I would get into something that I've been through in the past. Start talking about something either now that is happening that is good for you, or something that you're wanting to pull into your life that is in the future. Every time you feel compelled to do that, do the opposite. Instead of talking about the past, speak about the future, or speak about the present, the things that are going well for you in your present. You're going to see that this changes everything. This is going to give you excitement and an anticipation, a passion for life that you haven't experienced in a very long time. And some of you have disconnected with this feeling because, again, there's just so much from the past that has still been holding you. And most of it has still have been being held through your own tongue, through the own conversations that you're having about yourself and about your life. What do you want to speak about? Do you want to talk about the old you, or do you want to talk about the new you? Because again, whatever we're speaking during this time, and this is just period in general, we understand life and death is in the power of the tongue, but especially during this time, especially in this new era, this new season that is appointed for us, that is appointed for the chosen ones, it's your time. It's the chosen one's time now. We have the ability and we have the free will to create whatever we want. So let's use it wisely. This is a time where, even on one of the videos, I haven't posted it yet. I'm not sure when this particular episode is going to be posted on YouTube, but I'm pretty sure I'll share this on YouTube as well eventually. Remember, if you are listening to this on YouTube and you want complete episodes of the 828 podcast, come visit and join patreon.com/prettybosstv. There's so much more where this comes from. But one of the videos that I recorded, one of the short videos that I have on YouTube is talking about learning how to do less. Also learning how to say less, right? And as many of you embrace this, you're going to see how many things come to you. This is a time where observation is almost going to be like your best friend. Allow things to come to you, allow ideas to come, allow people to suggest things, allow others to do. Whenever you feel compelled to take action or make something happen or prove this or explain that, take some time to just cool yourself. Take some time to do the things that brings you balance. Take time to do things that moves you into a peaceful place, into a peaceful mindset. If there are certain sounds that you have, certain types of music that you listen to that calms you, have that on go. Breathing is something that's very beneficial. You don't even have to always break out into a full meditation. If you sit down for a few minutes in any given moment and just take a few minutes to just take full, complete breaths, those 3-chamber deep breaths, you'll see that some of the things that you might have felt compelled to do, you'll have an ease that comes over you. This is very important because right now it's time for balance to come into your life. Many of you have been one of those type of people that's like you've had to fight your entire life. You've been through enough. You've done a lot. You've sown many good seeds, not even sowing seeds with the intent to, if I do this, I'm going to get this back. Many of you have sown good seeds because that's just who you are. Many of you are the type of people that have many times and would give people the shirt off of your back and leave yourself with nothing. So again, this is about bringing balance back to your life. This is about allowing others to show up and, more importantly, allowing the space to see how the Most High really moves in your life. Allowing Yah to move as well. And not thinking that we have to force or make anything happen because you truly don't. The most important thing that it is for you to do right now is to focus and pay attention to what you're thinking about. You can pray all day, you can meditate all day, you can read books all day, you can watch videos all day, but it comes down to the fact of the matter that you got to do the work. Then 30 days to success is the work, and it's something that you can do in 30 days, okay? It means by the end of this 30 days, you'll have your personalized blueprint to success. Everything that you've been wondering and the things that's been holding you back in those subconscious blockages, they all get addressed in 30 days to success. Most people don't have what they desire in life, whether it's love, relationships, health, whatever it might be. A lot of people who don't have the things that they desire and that they deeply desire is because there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect between what you want and what you subconsciously believe. So 30 days to success is there to bridge that gap. Most of the time when people are experiencing fear or anxiety, it's for one of two reasons. And a lot of times it has to do with anticipating or fearing something that hasn't even happened yet. There are certain fears that become so fixated and so real, and it's like it's not even a thing. Of course, it's a possibility. There's infinite possibilities in the universe. But if we're thinking about, okay, this is what could happen. What if this happens? What if that happens? Are they good outcomes? Because you can spend your time imagining horrible outcomes, or you can spend your time imagining great ones. And if you're imagining horrible outcomes, that's going to lead you in a direction. Even if that horrible outcome doesn't happen, because the funny thing about fear, even if you look this up, most people's worst fears actually don't come true. It's actually rare. So most people who even have certain fears and think of the worst case outcome, that's wasted energy because that almost never happens. It's very rare that people's actually worst fears play out. So then it's like, okay, that's still leading you away from the possibility of thinking about the positive outcomes. Think about, even if you think of the best case scenario, even if that scenario doesn't happen, think about the energy that you've accrued and accumulated. You've been spending your time, you've been spending your weeks, your days, your months thinking about the best possible outcome. That has created some type of momentum, and it's created a positive one, to where even if it's not that particular thing that you've been thinking positive about happens, oh, trust me, there will be a lot of positive that happens in between then. And you never know, probably even things even greater than what you were thinking of, that you wanted a positive outcome towards. But again, either way, we want to spend our energy wisely. It does us no good to worry. Worrying has never done anything for any of us except cause unnecessary stress. And at the end of the day, even for most of you who are listening to this, you can probably think back to some of the worst fears that you had and realize, like, you know what, that didn't even happen. Even if maybe some of your worst fears came true once or twice in your life, most of the time, most of the fears that you've had, they haven't came true, not in that way. And then for some of you, some of your worst fears came true. And then when it happened, you didn't even experience it the way that you thought you would experience it. It might not even have been as bad as you thought it would be. Tell me if I'm right or wrong on that. I know that y'all can relate to that. So this is a time to, again, focus on keeping yourself calm. Some of you is going to be very beneficial to you for you to focus on breathing every day and just in every moment. Even as you're doing work, as you're not talking, just start really being more present with your breath. Not just to calm yourself down in moments of stress or anxiety or emotions being triggered, but try to really take deep breaths and breathe fully in your day to day. Most of us don't get the amount of oxygen that we're supposed to get in the brain because most people aren't even taking complete breaths. I do have videos, and I've been wanting to do that for a while. I actually wanted to post some in January, but I'm going to start posting a few videos on how to breathe properly. Like the breathing properly literally can change your entire life and experience. And it's so important because the correct amount of oxygen in the brain changes things, and it definitely gives you a greater ability to have more positive, high vibrational thoughts. This is why when you have people who are dealing with depression or major depression, one of the things for people who know that they deal with that and they cycle through major depression, and I got this from a really great read, it's called The Depression Cure. One of the things that are highly recommended for people that cycles in different spirals like that is to exercise regularly. And why? What about exercise helps people who are dealing or who have dealt with major depressive disorder in their life? It's because when you exercise, it forces you to breathe. And when you're breathing and you're taking those deep breaths that you usually don't take when you're not exercising, that's what get that oxygen circulating in your brain. So even for those of you who I highly recommend to do that for anybody, but even if it's not that, think about just the benefit that you would get alone from breathing properly all throughout the day. This is a time where you're really meant to shine. Everything that you've been through has positioned you and put you in a really, really good place. You have a really great opportunity to create all types of abundance, prosperity, and fully live in purpose around you. If you focus more on not what you've been through, but who you are now because of the things that you've been through, not taking what you've been through out of the equation, but focusing on who are you now? What did all of those things create? What type of person are you now because of it all? Even if, like I said, for those of you who are ready to make the oath that our lips are sealed about the past from here forth, from henceforth, even before you make that final oath to yourself, because we don't want to lie to ourselves. Remember, on one of the last videos I did, I said that one of the reasons that people have trust issues is not necessarily because they can't trust others, it's because they can't trust themselves. If we can't keep our own vows to ourselves, if we can't do the things that we say that we're going to do, that's what really deteriorates trust issues. It's really all an internal thing. So before you make that vow, and I know many of you are going to want to do that, especially if you're ready for this new era, take one last time to think about all the things that still populate in your mind when you think about things that you've been through. Take time to journal these things, but not just to journal it, but to really find what and who are you now because of those things. Then you can take those past experiences, rip them out, throw them in the trash, and keep the gem. Keep the pearl. We don't need the clamshell. We don't need all the other stuff, the irritation that caused the clam. We just need the clam. And that's who you are now. This is the time for you to, really live your best life, to be your best self, to express who you are to the world, and not who you are based on your past, not who you are based on the old things that you identify with, but who you are based on who you are in the Most High. Behold, all things old become new. To express to the world who you are based on this foundation, based on this solid rock, based on this solid ground that you repurposed your life on. For many of you, especially for those of you who spend a lot of time dealing in the past or thinking about things that you've been through, and you find yourself thinking about these things, or like I said, for some of you, it's not even necessarily that you necessarily dwell on those things, but when conversations make opportunity, you'll go back to those things really quickly, and it's like you keep it alive. You're making room for more of those experiences, or at least for you to continue to feel the way that those experiences made you feel. So what's more beneficial, especially during this time, is you really want to get out of your head. You want to do those things that helps you to stay clear of mind. So y'all know that I recommend this, and I will recommend this until I won't ever stop, okay? Meditation, meditation, meditation. Prayer and meditation goes together so well, like peanut butter and jelly, okay? Prayer is great to release. This is how we speak to the Most High. This is how we release things that are inside of us, how we let them out, how it's also a form of surrender, right? It's a form of letting go. That's what that's what an effective prayer is, essentially. But then when we meditate, that's how you're able to receive. That's how you're able to hear from the divine. So many of you, meditation is going to continue to be something that is just instrumental. This is something I just recommend for you to integrate into your life. The same way you brush your teeth every day, the same way you take a shower every day. Well, at least most of y'all. That's your business, not mine. The same way that you do those things every day, you eat every day. You drink water every day. You go to sleep every day. The same way that there are certain things that you do every day that you've been taught, well, you have to do this. You got to brush your teeth every day. You have to do this. You got to eat. Treat meditation that way. Integrate it in your lifestyle. It's going to be very beneficial. And some of you have been doing this, and you've been noticing that the more you allow yourself to have that clarity of mind, the more ideas are coming to you. You're starting to ascend to higher levels of thought. For some of you who dealt with poverty and, financial challenges, you're starting to have more of a prosperity mindset. You're starting to think in more unlimited ways. You're starting to realize that abundance can flow through you in infinite amount of ways. Maybe there are some ways that you figured out how you could do things, but it's a millions more ways that it can come to you, and you're open to that. Other things, like I said, meditation is something that could be used to clear your mind. If there are certain things that you do in terms of art or things that you like to do, different hobbies. Y'all know I talk about fishing. I love to do that. That's something that clears my mind. When I'm fishing, I don't think about anything else except trying to catch a fish and how I should try to redo the bait so that I can get what I'm trying to catch. Those are the only thoughts that are coming to my mind. I love to do nails. There's so many things that you can do. Exercise is something that when I'm lifting weights, that's all I'm thinking about. And a lot of times when I am working out, since that's a Zen space for me, I can't speak that everybody experiences exercise that way. But since that's a Zen space for me, that's where I actually get like a lot of my ideas from. Especially if there's something I was trying to solve, there's something I'm trying to think about for a business, or I'm trying to think of a name for something. I've gotten my best ideas. They'll hit me right in the middle of exercise. And that's because that's when my mind is clear. The only thing I'm doing in my mind exercising is counting reps. Okay? So having a clarity of mind, clearing your mind right now, that's what you want to do. Anything that you're trying to figure out, okay? If you find yourself trying to contemplate anything or I don't want to say strategize, because there's nothing wrong with strategy. But it's one thing to try to force things. You're not going to need, because remember we talked about this year for the chosen ones. This is a year of going with the flow, going with that God flow. So if you find yourself trying too hard, that's just not it. It's not. You're going to see that as you clear your mind and you do less and you even try to figure things out less And it sounds counterintuitive because, we're taught you got to do this, you got to work hard, you got to figure this out, you got to strategize, you got to plan, you got to set goal. And that's true. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with those things, but we have to understand when they're necessary and when they're required. A lot of times when people are trying to think things and strategize and do those things out of alignment, the results that you're wanting are not going to come. It'll be best for you to get into alignment, to clear your mind, and allow those ideas to naturally flow to you. Allow yourself to observe and see the things like, you know what, I've never seen an advertisement about this before. I want to do that. Maybe as you start paying attention, you see a commercial on TV, you're having a conversation, you're sitting having lunch by yourself, and you hear some people at another table talking about something that it sparks you. It's like, I never thought about doing that. I could do that. I'm interested in that. That's why I say most of your blessings are going to come when you're allowing yourself to be in a receptive mode. You're going to know when it's time to put action to things. And again, this is not saying that y'all are not going to be taking action. We have always been talking about putting one foot in front of the other, doing what we need to do each day. Surrendering doesn't mean, laying down on the couch eating Cheetos all day. But what it does mean is not trying to force things and doing what you need to do, but also allowing that space for divine inspiration to flow through you. Trust the Most High during this time. Like, understand that even certain things that, let's say there are certain cares and worries that you have, what scripture tells us. Cast your burdens, cast your anxieties upon the Most High. Almighty's yoke is easy and Almighty's burden is light. So feel, one with the Most High enough to, even if there are certain things that you find yourself stressing about or worrying about how this is going to happen, just talk to the Most High about it and let it go. Release it. Trust. You're not going to be forsaken. You won't be moved, especially those of you who I'm speaking about. You have built your house on a solid ground. Now, one thing that I want to double back to really quick as it's coming to me is, for some of you, there are some things, because everybody's at different stages of this healing journey. All right. For some of you who are still in the process of healing and opening up and allowing that heart portal to expand, what would be very beneficial to you is really to spend time in silence and focus on your heart. Listen to your heart. It's interesting as I'm saying this because for those of who are listening to this live on Patreon, I'm recording this on February 8th. And today we're doing also the month of February, Love Month. We're doing 30 Days of Success and Love. So day 8 was meditate on your heart. Perfect for this conversation. It was a meditation I shared after that podcast episode. And the meditation that I shared tonight was, I butcher this every single time, but I'm going to try. It's Ho'oponopono, okay? Ho'oponoponopo. Y'all don't judge me. But if you know, you know. And it's a Hawaiian, it's from Hawaii. It's a Hawaiian prayer. And it's literally about surrendering and release. Now on Patreon, I posted a link to my favorite version of that. The first time I listened to that, I want to say maybe it's been a year or two ago now, maybe a couple years ago, or maybe like a year and a half ago. I literally probably cried for about 10 minutes straight. Like, it was such a deep release. It was certain things that were inside of me that I didn't even realize that I was holding on to. And that was a major release for me. I've had several cycles of release where I've had other things and other moments where I've had major releases from certain things that I'd been holding on to inside of me that I didn't know was there. But that was also a very significant one. So even if you're not on Patreon, try to see if you can look one up that you can listen to that. Some of you need to listen to your heart. Some of you have deep things that you've been through that have been so depressed, but they still affect you. Some of you are certain things that you probably don't even remember. They don't even come to your conscious mind, but they're still trapped inside of you. And it's time for you to listen. Some of you, if you're listening to this, because like I said, everybody's at different stages. So some of you could be in the beginning part of your journey. Some of you might be ready to start that healing process now. And I know I can relate to this. There was a point in my life I started to feel like I couldn't even feel. Anybody else relate to that? Any of you feel like that now or once felt like that where it's like you just became numb like after a while? Some of you might be there. And when you are numb like that, best believe there's some things deep down that you might not even remember or know what it is, but there's some pain that's deep, deep down in there. And it's time to connect with that. It's time to listen to your heart. Definitely get out your head. And whatever messages your heart has for you, let them be released. Let them be purified. You're getting ready to go on a completely new journey. Every desire and vision that the Most High gave you, every heart desire that the Most High put on your heart, and understand that when you have heart's desires, we're not talking about just things that you want. There's a lot of things that people want but don't need. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the desires of your heart. And when the Most High puts desires on your heart, and you will know the difference, you feel the difference, no matter what you do, no matter how many times you try to talk yourself out of it, that desire will never leave. It's something you can feel. Every single heart desire that the Most High has given you, it's promised. The only thing for you to do is to allow it, is to trust, is to get out of your head, to stop regurgitating and stop focusing on anything that you've been through in the past. Put it to bed. It doesn't benefit in the long run. Like I said, there are certain conversations that we can have that maybe in the moment it feels good, but what is it doing for us tomorrow? It's bringing up old energy. It's keeping old things alive. You're ready for a journey where I'm talking about so much success for you. So much. Even for those of you who are dealing with certain tough situations right now or coming out of some tough things, you you're going to know exactly what to do. You're going to be able to figure everything out. It's going to come to you. The Most High is going to lead you. And everything that you're going through right now, it's literally pointing you directly towards guaranteed success. Like this is guaranteed. This is promised for you. Blessings. Everything happened for a reason. Nothing was in vain. I kid you not, there's going to come a time in your life sooner than later. Some of y'all this year where you're literally going to be thinking about everything that you've been through, and it's going to make you laugh. You're going to be blessed for it because you're going to have the full realization in front of your face of why it all happened in the first place. You're going to see it in your purpose. You're going to see it in your career. You're going to see it in your love life. You're going to see it in your relationships. You're going to see it in the way that you're able to experience life now. I always say this for people who just have lives that is like, it's not that bad. It's not that great. That's usually the polarity that they stay in. Like, their life is never that bad or that great. It's like, okay, it's medium. But for people who have been through volatility, for people who have experienced hell on earth, that they not even afraid of nothing called hell because of the hell that they've been through. For those of you, you have the ability to experience the equal and opposite of that. Think about a trampoline. If you jumping on a trampoline, you just barely hopping. Like you go up a little bit, you go down a little bit, you barely move. But if you bouncing, you going all the way down, and you going all the way up. And for those of you who've been all the way down in life, especially for many of you multiple times, you are going all the way up. For those of you who've experienced life to where it's like, look, I don't even want to be here. This is not even my thing. You're about to bring a whole new realm out of this world. You're about to truly experience a piece of heaven on earth. And we already know the new kingdom of heaven is being established on earth as we speak. How do you think the kingdom of heaven on earth is being established? It's being established through the chosen ones. The Most High has to use vessels to bring that into fruition. So, again, many of you doing things that are beneficial, especially for some of you, I do highly recommend exercise. I mean, the summertime's around the corner anyway, so I know Most of y'all want to get summertime. Fine, why not? You feel me? Why not? Even if you don't plan on going anywhere, you never know. You might wake up looking a certain type way and being like, you know what? I wasn't planning to go to the beach this year. But just because of what that reflection doing, I gotta go. I mean, you never know, family. When you prepare yourself, it's many opportunities that come up. You see? So again, there's also a message that I have here. For some of you, this is going to be like a kind of a specific message, but for some of you, there's someone that is like, this person, whoever this person is lost without you. Okay? Somebody is lost without you. All right? Somebody is feeling like they really missed out on something that they shouldn't have taken for granted. Okay? Um and the thing about it, for some of you, and this is not going to be for many of you, it's going to be for a small percentage of you. But for some of you, this person and you will cross paths again. Okay. And it will be a different story this time. And this will be something that goes to a very high level of commitment. For those of you who want marriage, everybody's not into marriage. But for some of you who want marriage, it will lead to that. And for others of you, even if this isn't somebody that you've already met or somebody that you've already known, if this is something that you want, again, when we're talking about these promises, this is something that you will have. Love, commitment, definitely financial prosperity, happiness, joy, all different forms of abundance, clarity. You're going to get into a place of your life where it seems like, you know, your everyday life is a breakthrough after breakthrough. You're moving into an easy chapter. Your life has felt the whole time like you've been swimming upstream. Now you're going to be swimming downstream. You're going to be being moved with the flow. You know how it feels like if you're trying to swim upstream or you're swimming against the current and you swimming as hard as you can, but you're not really getting anywhere. That's for many of you what your life has felt like. Now, all you have to do is lay on your back and let the river take you where it may. Because you're being led straight into the promised land. This is a time for you to focus on truly what do you want. Even when we're talking about listening to your heart, what does your heart also desire? We want to be clear with ourselves. We don't want to lie to ourselves. We want to be very honest with the things that we desire. We want to be very honest about that, because the only person or people that will shortchange in doing that is not even only ourselves, but everybody else that's involved. We want to really be authentic. We got to be real with ourselves. So listen to yourself. Listen to your heart. Spend a lot of time with your heart, even this week, as you listen to this prophetic message. On Patreon, for those who are doing 30 Days of Success and Love, most of us have already made a commitment that we're going to be meditating on our heart for the next 7 days, at least. If you can pull it out for the rest of Love Month, that'd be amazing. Imagine if you could pray and meditate on your heart for the entire February and you got an extra day because it's a leap year. Imagine the results that that's going to have for the rest of the year moving forward. Some of you also need to be very mindful about how you're sharing your energy, okay? How you're sharing yourself. Because remember, even if we talk about, when we're talking about physical things, we have to understand how energy works. So it's really going to be a very beneficial time for you to also make sure that you're harnessing your energy, that you're really taking care of your vessel, and you're putting all of that creative energy into places that is going to really create and build things that you're wanting and needing to build during this time. Don't do things that are going to drain you and deplete you. It's like, especially now, this is a time where you're meant to have a fire that continues to grow and build inside of you. This is a time where you're really meant to pick up a very powerful momentum to where each month you should see continual and significant progress until by the time you get, especially for those of you who are listening to this guidance, you take heed to this guidance. By the end of this year, by December 2024, your life will be a 180, honestly. You're going to have a whole new perspective, not just on your life because of how you're experiencing it, but it's going to give you even a different perspective on why everything that it took for you to get here, why that was the case. And you're going to see clearly that everything truly this entire time was all things that are working together for the greater good for you. Romans 8:28. All things work together for good for those who love the Most High and have been called according to the purpose of the divine. Understand that this is your time. This is your era. There is no competition. You're one of one. Know that. Move into that. Understand that you're free now. Understand that you don't have to continue to think about the past. Understand that as you truly heal and let those things go, this is healing you on a genetic level. You're talking about when you're bringing seeds into the world, when you're bringing children into the world, you're going to be able to break those generational curses that have been in the bloodline, passed down trauma through generation. As you truly move away from that and heal that, that's going to change the nature of your DNA. And for those of you who will bring seeds forth in the form of children, they're not going to have to deal with any of those things. So think about the bigger picture before you want to regurgitate something that no longer matters now. Understand that you're highly protected. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Anybody that's trying anything, some of you got people some of y'all have strong enemies. I hear people talk about gang stalking and things of that nature. Some of y'all been having all type of that. Some of y'all been having people try to come in your dreams, all type of things, okay? And that's why we're doing 30-night dream journey as well on Patreon, because again, I talk about spiritual warfare. A lot of time that happens when you're asleep. And guess what? Even if you wake up and pray at night, you got to sleep sometime. So if you're cognizant with how to move in the dream realm, then you could be ready in and out of season. Whether you sleep or whether you awake, you're fully cognizant in the spiritual. Some of you have somebody coming in your life that might be different from you in a significant way. Some of you, this could be culturally. Some of you, this could be physically. But some of you, either that person is returning to you or a new person is coming into your life. It's going to be very significant. Okay. Somebody's lost without you, but you're not lost. You're protected. And the Most High is guiding you on this new journey that you are on. Stay forward focused. And don't ever look back. I love y'all so much. Let me know how this resonates in the comments. Have a beautiful day, night, week, weekend, wherever you are. I'll talk to you again soon. Y'all willing. Peace.